Every so often, we experience a moment that profoundly changes how we see the world, a flash of clarity that makes everything click. These moments, called insights, shift our thinking, our decisions, and even the way we feel. They can transform obstacles from confusing to crystal clear, spotlight opportunities previously overlooked, and help us assess situations more accurately. Unlike day-to-day problem solving, insights rarely come from brute force. They often arrive unexpectedly, which can make breakthroughs feel almost mystical. Yet, when we examine their patterns, we find they can be understood, anticipated, and nurtured. Crucially, we discover that insights arise following three paths: connections, contradictions, and creative desperation. Each one reshapes the beliefs and assumptions guiding our thinking, creating that undeniable sense of illumination. With awareness, practice, and the right conditions, both individuals and organizations can make these flashes of understanding more likely. Today, we'll break down each of the three paths to insight and unpack how to leverage them. You'll explore the path of connections, where seemingly unrelated ideas come together in consequential ways. You'll uncover the path of contradictions, moments when reality clashes with expectation and challenges assumptions. You'll trace the path of creative desperation, insights born under pressure when we're pushed to rethink entrenched beliefs. And you'll discover how organizations can foster environments that support breakthroughs, helping teams translate insight into action and action into impact. Ready to unlock your capacity for insight and innovation? Let's get started. Contrary to what we might expect, most profound realizations don't come from deliberate effort. They arrive when two or more ideas suddenly snap together, painting a picture we hadn't seen before. This is the essence of the connection pathway to insight, spotting relationships between bits of information that until that moment seemed unrelated. One way this happens is through coincidences. On the surface, coincidences look like complete chance, two events just happening to happen at the same time, for example. And in 99% of cases, that's exactly what it is: happenstance. But if the same kind of coincidence keeps appearing, it can be an early warning that there's more going on beneath the surface. A similar trigger is curiosity. Here, a singular, surprising instance, something slightly odd or out of place, provokes the question, why did that happen? Curiosity by itself isn't the insight, but flags the start of a path toward discovery. While coincidences draw our attention to repeating unexpected patterns, curiosities pull us in with a single strange moment yearning for explanation. Both triggers encourage us to connect the dots. This means we don't always need more information. Sometimes our snow globe just needs a shake. The insight lies in seeing how disparate threads can weave into something new. To make these sorts of connections more likely, it helps to widen the breadth of raw material in our minds. Dabbling in new activities and speaking with strangers are two light-lift ways we can increase the chances of stumbling on a consequential link or rethinking the links we've already made. It's like adding more diverse Lego pieces to our mental pile. The more pieces we have, and the more varied their shapes, the higher the odds of discovering a combination we didn't anticipate. Still, this pathway isn't without its challenges. Naturally, the more combinations we generate, the more false starts we'll encounter. Sorting through the static to find the signal requires time and discernment, and not everyone has the patience. Even when we do find something promising, it won't mean much unless we act on it. Insights not enacted are like sparks that never catch fire. Ultimately, the connection pathway works best when we keep our minds open to repeated coincidences, to moments of curiosity, and to the possibility that unrelated ideas might belong together. By following these leads and daring to act on them, we set forth on the first path to cultivating the conditions for unexpected breakthroughs. If connections thrive on harmony, contradictions thrive on disruption. Sometimes, insight strikes not when things fit together, but when they clash and bounce apart. That sudden feeling of disbelief, the startled, "that can't be right," can be an early sign of a paradigm-shifting discovery. Contradiction-based insights arise when our mental models collide with evidence that refuses to fit. Unlike connections, which encourage us to work with the full breadth of all we know, contradictions force us to question whether the expanse of what we know is accurate in the first place. Welcoming and entertaining contradictions certainly requires a shift in mindset. Instead of brushing them off, we need to view them as clues that our current models are inconsistent or incomplete. A result previously thought impossible, or a behavior that counters the theory, for example, can be an invitation to interrogate what we assume to be true. In this way, a skeptical mind can be just as valuable as an open one. Allowing disbelief to linger rather than rushing to explain it away gives space for a new understanding to emerge. However, this tension between belief and observation can create discomfort, so it can be tempting to quickly dismiss inconsistencies and return to a sense of what is known, even if inaccurate. Most people prefer harmony between their ideas and the world around them, so a contradiction can feel like a rude disruption. But disruption needn't be perceived this way. Disruption can be productive. If instead of reacting with irritation or ignorance, we ask, "What could this inconsistency be teaching me?" The contradiction can become a launchpad rather than a roadblock. Contradictions can contain outsized payoffs for those willing to face them and their associated discomfort head-on. Cultivating a generally prepared mind can support our ability to leverage this pathway. Someone who proactively deepens their understanding of their field is more likely to notice a subtle irregularity or minor anomaly that someone less immersed may easily gloss over. But as with connections, the answer isn't simply amassing knowledge. Sharpening our awareness is equally critical. Operating on autopilot dulls the sensitivity this path often requires. On a more encouraging note, contradictions remind us that being wrong, surprised, or unsettled isn't a failure. Indeed, it may be just the opposite, a moment of seeing clearer than anyone has ever before. By paying close attention to the instances that clash with our expectations and treating them not as glitches to wave off, but as an alert to double down, we can turn disbelief into discovery, the second path to insight and innovation. A final way insights can arise is under pressure, when we feel intellectually trapped and our usual tactics aren't working. Creative desperation is the path we follow when we're cornered and forced to break free from a mental impasse. Unlike connections or contradictions, this type of insight involves some deliberate effort. On this path, we tend to be actively searching for a solution because the situation won't allow us to ignore or postpone the problem. The first step here is to recognize the assumption or assumptions that are holding us back. In many cases, it isn't a lack of information blocking our progress, but a flawed belief or outdated mental shortcut restricting how we're viewing or approaching the problem. To get unstuck, we must identify the limitation and be willing to properly examine it. Insight will emerge the moment we stop working within the constraints of an obsolete framework and begin rethinking the framework itself. A systematic approach can help on this path. Critical thinking becomes the tool of choice, encouraging us to evaluate our assumptions and test whether they're validated by experience. This doesn't mean listing out every single assumption, as some advice may advocate. Instead, it means homing in on the few assumptions most central to our understanding and weighing the available evidence there. Clinging stubbornly to a flawed assumption can blind us to solutions, but discarding a belief too quickly can be just as harmful. Engaging in considered critical thinking can separate the signal from noise, exposing the one or two weak links that are preventing us from moving forward. Time and mental space can also play a key role. Stepping away from a problem, what researchers call incubation, gives the brain an opportunity to reorganize and reevaluate information. Research suggests that longer breaks, paired with thorough preparation, amplify the effect. Incubation doesn't replace effort, but it can enhance it by letting the subconscious fill gaps the conscious mind might miss. The path of creative desperation means attacking our assumptions head-on. By systematically analyzing what we believe, stepping back to gain perspective, and releasing limiting paradigms, we're assisted in turning moments of pressure into moments of pioneering. Constraints become catalysts on the third path to insights, forcing us to think and act differently to uncover solutions that would have remained elusive under other conditions. Now that we have an understanding of each of the three pathways to insight in place, let's explore how these paths can be applied to individuals and organizations. Helping someone else cultivate a capacity for insight requires a wholly different approach to cultivating our own. Sure, when a colleague is stuck in their thinking or acts on questionable assumptions, they're likely still constrained by a faulty belief. However, as you've likely experienced, forcing advice upon another rarely works. Engaging curiosity and encouraging small experiments is often more effective. As a result, we need to work a little harder, a little smarter, to create the conditions that allow them to see and act on the flawed assumption themselves. Whole organizations face additional challenges, not least because many inadvertently stifle the insights they say they want and need. Deep-rooted industrial habits, specifically valuing predictability and striving for perfection, pose two formidable obstacles. The predictability trap punishes deviations from the predetermined plan. Rare are the organizations truly at ease with ambiguity, but insights are, by definition, disruptive. Breakthroughs often arrive unexpectedly, reshaping goals, roles, and workflows, asking for more from managers than they may be willing to give. At the same time, the perfection trap incentivizes the faultless execution of said predetermined plan. Although insights can reveal ways to surpass an organization's current set point of perfection, if managers are rewarded by meeting the current standard, without the risk associated with aiming beyond, why would they? It's true that most organizations say they value and champion innovation. Few have systematized it. Organizations then can counteract these tendencies by doing just that. One approach is to appoint insight champions, team members who, alongside their daily duties, identify and share innovations across the company. Regularly highlighting these examples shows that creativity and experimentation matter. Another strategy is to create safe avenues for unconventional proposals to be considered, perhaps via an oversight committee. It wouldn't replace necessary hierarchical filters. It would simply provide a safety valve for ideas that challenge the status quo, so employees can pursue innovation without fear of dismissal or rejection. More broadly, it would benefit us all to remember that insights are a creative act of service. That moment of surprise, the flash of understanding, the recognition of something novel, is more than a new business innovation to market. It's a story worth telling, a shift in perspective worth shifting, and an opportunity worth taking to reimagine how we think and move through the world.